Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome to Fantasia. For today, we're gonna be jumping into another session of Epic 7 Now today. Got another balance adjustment preview for you guys. That's right, it's a little weird because it's not balance adjustment preview time yet. Typically it's every 8 weeks or so that they will drop a balance patch and let us take a look at the changes before they get implemented. But this time around I think it's a little bit early. Correct me if I'm wrong on this though, but it's a little early, and for good reason. This is a really small balance adjustment, and what I mean by that is, yeah, look at that. It's 2 units, right? 5-star Covenant Fenris and 4-star Moonlight new Kid Adin. Now, this is unprecedented. I don't think we've ever had a balance adjustment like this, which is kind of cool, and we'll get into these notes in just a second here. I do see that it says, please note that the balance adjustment schedule for June 5th will still proceed as planned, okay? So do keep that in mind. I guess this is just a really early little preview for us, which is kind of cool. I do hope that they do mini adjustments like this, like throughout, right? Every 8 weeks we get a major one, but maybe every 4 weeks we get a tiny tweak to some units to see if things will work out for them. And maybe if they don't, they get added into the, bigger balance patch, and then maybe they'll see some reworks there, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at Fenris here. Also, by the way, if you guys are wondering, where's your Bossarunka video, Azza? It's because I haven't pulled her yet. We're like still pretty far out, about 80 summons from Pity, and I have to refresh the secret shop some more. So hopefully this weekend I'll be able to get content for you guys. But otherwise, yeah. So we're gonna suffer. Anyway, back to Fenris. Fenris over here has gotten just a slight tweak. It just increases combat readiness of the ally in the back row by 50%. Fenris has never been really used in PvP. When he originally was released, some people were kind of throwing him into some like faster teams and such like that. But yeah, he really hasn't seen play at all. There's just way better options than him. Increasing the combat readiness is alright. I don't think Fenris is gonna be like suddenly used more in PvP in any way, shape, or form, but this might help out with some certain synergies in PvE content. But I am not a huge like PvE player in Epic 7. I do clear all the content, but I'm not really that innovative when it comes to creating team comps and such. So if you are a better PvE player than I am, which I certainly do think most of you guys are out there, let me know what applications this can be for. But yeah, either way, it's not a huge change and he won't be relevant in the RTA scene. But a unit that can be relevant in the RTA scene, new Kid Adin. That's right. Yeah, she is getting a mountain of changes. Look at that. So for her S1 here, right, it says attacks the enemy with a bamboo sword inflicting injuries. Severity of injuries increases proportional to the damage dealt, right? Injuries decrease max health of the target by up to 10% every time this skill is used. Now, it used to be that when you used it on your turn, if you had Vigor, you attack all enemies with an AoE attack. Pretty cool. Now, that has been actually modified to be the Soul Burn. They took the Soul Burn away from her S3, where you can decrease the skill cooldown by 2 turns, which was alright. Back then you could just Soul Burn with an S3 and then S1 and S3 again, right? So you can turn cycle pretty quick to deal tons of injury damage. But yeah, the Soul Burn still has that same thing. AoE attack everybody, 10 souls, pretty easily obtained. And now it says when the caster granted Vigor, a successful attack will inflict additional damage equivalent to 50% of injuries inflicted on the target. For reference, this is essentially like the injury detonation we see with DDR's S1 and the injury detonation that you would get with like Ilanov's like S2, I believe it was. So yeah, not terrible. It's actually a pretty good change, and this will actually make her a bit more consistent in just dealing damage and like kind of finishing off the opponents, right? Especially if you're doing AoE AoE injury damage with things like ML Shu. If you have Urban Shadow Shu, she can inflict a ton of injuries on everybody, and then you use Adin to come in and kind of nuke them all with a Soul Burn on the S1. Seems like a plan, right? Seems decent. Just keep in mind that you need Vigor for this, and the only way she gets Vigor is by successfully evading. And if you guys know evasion units that are not named, well, after Nusok Flan, they're pretty inconsistent, right? So keep that in the back of your mind too as you reconsider building your new Kid Adin. The other thing is, when you have Vigor, you also counterattack. So if you successfully evade, right, you will get that counterattack, and counterattack can only be activated once per turn. So this is not getting the counterattack buff or anything like that. It is just, hey, you evaded, boom, counterattack, and then when you counterattack, I guess the S1 here can proc, right? So you can, since you have Vigor, you'll deal some injury damage with the S1 and then detonate some of that injury damage. So it's not bad. You also gain some combat readiness, increased by 20% instead of the old 10% back then. The combat readiness gain, by the way, that you get is not once per turn, so you can just keep jumping up in combat readiness, and you can actually turn cycle quite quickly with her at the end of anyone's turn when she is Vigor, right? So yeah, you can also build her a little bit slower now, perhaps. Maybe make her a bit bulkier so she can survive stuff. She doesn't really need as much damage if you're just dealing injury detonation as your main way of finishing off your opponent. Could be something to consider here as well. When you look at her S3 though, your cooldowns did get decreased by 1 turn, probably to make up for the fact that, well, they literally took away the Soul Burn that decreases her skill cooldown by 2 turns, and then you gain 1 less soul, which is normally fine. It's not huge by any means. So the S3 has remained unchanged, right? You still gain your attack buff to yourself, and then you inflict a bunch of injuries up to 30% every time, and whenever you have Vigor, a successful attack deals damage equivalent to 100% of injuries inflicted on the target. So she's already had that detonation. It's just that instead of making it so you have to soul burn that S1 over and over and over again to get that consistent damage, her S1 is just a slightly weaker version of her S3 now, which is not bad. It's kind of cool. She will probably be a very good, consistent injury damage dealer, and honestly, with this, maybe outclassing Alencia in some cases. Alencia does have the advantage of being able to get paired with young Senya though, so they're both going to be good in their own right. Some people are theorizing that they made this change so people have a counter into things like Boss Arunca. I'm not really sure how much this is going to help, seeing as a lot of Boss Aruncas out there are running Rocket Punch Gauntlet on counter builds, so if you're trying to smack Boss Arunca, you're probably going to get smacked back, and Adin, being an evasion unit, probably doesn't have too much bulk, especially being a 4-star with less base stats. She's probably getting nuked if she gets hit by like 2 Rocket Punch Gauntlets. So yeah, definitely not quite what I would have in mind when I picture a Boss Arunca counter, but hey, injury detonation and stuff like that does add up pretty quick, and if you get lucky, you could actually maybe kill off Arunca pretty quickly. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this balance adjustment, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited for new Kid Adin's buffs, and what is Fenris going to be used for? Because I'm still scratching my head on that one there. Anyway, hopefully I get Boss Arunca of my own very soon so I can showcase her for you guys. And until next time, as always, take care.